Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Wildlife podcast. I am your host, Courtney, and in today's episode, we are going to be discussing a gliding possum. That's right, this is an animal that is capable of gliding up to 50 meters in just one glide. That is our beautiful little sugar gliders. We are going to learn of how and why they have evolved to glide and the absolute intelligence of these animals and just how emotional they can be. So thank you so much for tuning in. This is our conversation on our sugar gliders. So I do want to point out that our sugar gliders have only just recently split into 3 separate species. It was once thought that there was one species, the sugar glider, that inhabited Australia. Now we know there are actually multiple. We have our savanna glider, which lives in our northern part of Australia, our Crefts glider, which lives in our north and eastern parts of the country, and of course the sugar glider, which inhabits our eastern part from our dividing range. Although classed as different species, they all have the same very similar characteristics. They all share that membrane which extends from that 5th finger down to their ankle, which gives them that capability to be able to glide. And our gliders in general are nocturnal and they are marsupials, meaning that they are a mammal but they don't have a placenta. These are the type of mammals that the female will have that pouch on her abdomen where after giving birth for quite a short period of time, this can be anything from a week or 2 to a couple months, she will give birth to very undeveloped young. Her young will then be stored in that front pouch or a backwards facing pouch like a few of our marsupials here in Australia. But this is where those joeys will continue to feed in her pouch and to grow. Being nocturnal, this means that our sugar gliders are mostly active in the nighttime or they are feeding throughout the night. And our sugar gliders like a very sweet kind of diet. They consume nectar and tree saps, and if they are in captivity or being kept as a pet, which we will definitely get into because I think that it is a very concerning thing to keep a sugar glider as a pet. That is just my opinion, so we'll definitely get on that later in the episode. But if they are being kept as a pet or in a wildlife sanctuary, their diet may vary and differ a little bit from then in the wild. They may be fed fruit and vegetables and also insects for a source of protein. But living in the wild, they have quite an abundance of their food source. They inhabit our forests and our woodlands, which makes consuming and finding their leaves and their saps and their nectar quite easy. In the daytime, you typically tend to find our sugar gliders resting in hollow trees, or they can build nests made out of leaves to rest in and to hide from predators. They also do live in clans, so this is what their group is called. They can live in a group of up to 7 individuals, and like any other animal group in the animal kingdom, there are safety in numbers, right? So this is exactly why our sugar glider does live in a clan. But in saying that, our sugar glider is friendly and kind and playful and very sociable towards members of their own clan. But be it an outsider or another sugar glider from a different clan, they don't act the same. The sugar glider can act very aggressively. They can become quite loud and noisy because they are very territorial. Our male sugar gliders will actually mark their home territories, of course, but they can mark other sugar gliders in their clan, and they do this by secreting a oily substance from their chest, from a gland, and this ensures that the male knows who's in his clan, who isn't, who to protect and who not to protect. And also, of course, like any other animal, they have home ranges, so they are protecting those home ranges for their young and their mates. Our sugar glider is quite easily recognizable as well compared to a lot of other little species or even possums. Sometimes it can be hard to differentiate between a ringtail possum and a brushtail possum, of course, by looking at their tails. But if you're not familiar with our wildlife in Australia, you may not know. But our sugar gliders are pretty easy to recognize. They have that very soft, thick, grey to white fur. They have those black stripes down their body, and of course, the tip of their tail is black as well. They are incredibly small, measuring from about 5 to 6 inches and only weighing a couple hundred grams. They can weigh from 100 to about 300 grams. So they are very small creatures, very light creatures. They do have a lifespan of roughly 6 years, depending on environmental factors and, of course, whether they are in captivity or being kept as a pet. And they do inhabit Australia, of course, and Tasmania, but they are also found in New Guinea as well. So how can our sugar gliders glide? If you have ever encountered a sugar glider, whether that be in a wildlife sanctuary where you live or in the wild, seeing and encountering a sugar glider, especially seeing them glide from tree to tree, is absolutely phenomenal. It is so spectacular and kind of feels surreal. So they can glide, and I would say that their membrane sort of acts like a parachute. So this membrane spans from their front legs to their back legs, and they will use their hind legs, which are quite strong for their size, to grip a tree. They will then take off and spread their limbs to expose that membrane. And while in flight, they can stare. Of course, they would have to be able to land safely and to aim for a tree, but they can stare by adjusting the tension of the membrane and by moving their limbs. So if they are wanting to turn right, they can lower that right forearm below their left and aim for a tree. And impact isn't always the greatest, but their forelimbs do kind of absorb that impact, and they do have long, strong, sharp claws as well to be able to grip or climb if necessary. So what is this used for? Why do they glide? So there are a number of reasons, and the main one being predators. If they are in trouble, the mother may have a joey or a couple joeys to be able to flee as fast as possible. They have the ability, like this, to flee. They can spread those membranes and get out of there as soon as possible. They do have a few predators that live up in our trees. We have birds such as our kookaburras, and we have snakes. But down below on the ground, they are at an even higher risk of being preyed upon. So this ensures that they don't need to venture down onto the ground to get in between tree to tree. They can glide very fast, very smoothly to safety. They can also use this gliding technique to find food sources, again, so they don't have to venture down onto the ground where they are at a higher risk. They can stay hidden between the leaves. They can also use those membranes as sort of pouches to store food, whether this be leaves or nectar, tree sap, for their young as well. So it does come in handy for that. As we mentioned, they do have predators that live up in our trees, like our snakes and our kookaburras, but they are also preyed upon by feral cats, our fox, which is an introduced species, quolls, and even goannas. And they, as an adult, are particularly small. So imagine as a baby, as a joey. So the mum has to do everything she can to be able to protect her young so the population can increase and continue to thrive, and it can't or it won't die out. So our baby sugar gliders are preyed upon a lot by not even larger animals like snakes, but also baby snakes and goannas. Another reason and factor why our sugar gliders are being affected is human activity. This is habitat loss. We are destroying their habitats by knocking down their trees. This is very concerning given that they rely on these trees for safety, it is their homes, this is where they rest. Without these trees, there is a lack of connectivity between tree to tree. So this is now making the sugar glider to go on the ground, which is now putting them at risk. They need these trees to be able to connect to each other to get to safety, to find food sources. And humans are taking this away. Humans are destroying their homes. Their population is at a least concern status, but this doesn't mean that we just let them do their own thing and don't help or protect them. Because when that's done, you get animals like our numbats and our bilbies and our quokkas who are all either vulnerable or critically endangered. So what can we do to prevent this happening to our beautiful little sugar gliders? So we know that they rely on trees. So you may want to work with an organization or volunteer with an organization to plant trees. You may also want to plant your own trees in your own backyard. This doesn't have to be a massive 100-meter tall tree. This can be as small as plants, especially native plants, whether you live somewhere where our sugar gliders inhabit or not. You are not only helping our sugar gliders with a food source and with protection from predators, but you are also helping our pollinators, so our bees and our butterflies, by planting native plants like our bottle brush. So that would be a really cool thing to do, and it's a nice achievement, and to be able to have it in your own backyard and to see the plant grow and to see all the life forms that come and visit is really spectacular. Something else that we spoke about on our Bilby episode are cats. So obviously feral cats prey upon our sugar gliders, but so do domestic cats. We did speak about it being illegal in some states and territories here in Australia to allow your cat out. If you are taking them out, it has to be on a leash. This is because we are protecting our native wildlife. Cats will hurt, harm, kill anything that they can possibly get their hands on, from our reptiles, so lizards, snakes, to our sugar gliders. So it's really important that you are keeping your pets inside, your dogs on leads, and your cats inside the house. You may also want to work with an organization or support one. You could donate to an organization. I know the Australian Wildlife Conservancy does an excellent job at not just protecting our sugar gliders, but I have mentioned this organization on a variety of different episodes, from our bilbies to our quokkas, numbats last week. This is because they protect our native species, and they are protecting our sugar gliders in sanctuaries and fenced sanctuaries, which protect them from introduced species and predators. This helps increase their populations to get them thriving once again, and to ensure that our native species are doing great compared to our introduced species. They also do implement safe fire management, so these will be safe burn-offs in our cooler months. So when our summer months do come around, our sugar gliders are a lot more safe and there is a lower risk of a bushfire occurring. A little fun fact about our sugar glider is they are actually the largest marsupial to enter a very similar state of hibernation. So we know that bears hibernate and bats hibernate and hedgehogs hibernate, but our sugar gliders do something very similar. So they have been known to reduce their physical activity, whether this be for a couple days to a couple weeks. They can slow their heart rate and their breathing, and also decrease their body temperature to conserve energy. And you must know this if you are going to keep a sugar glider as a pet. And there are so many risks and factors that come into play when keeping a sugar glider as a pet. In saying this, you can't just go out into the wild and find a sugar glider and take it and keep it for yourself. This is not allowed, and in most states and territories here, you cannot even keep a sugar glider as a pet. I do believe it is only the Northern Territory, Victoria, and South Australia where you can have a sugar glider as a pet. But this is no easy task, and I really do want to talk about it because It's Christmas in a couple weeks, and the amount of sugar gliders I've been seeing on my Instagram and my social media of people getting as pets, it's a little bit worrying if you aren't educated and you're only getting it to have a cute little pet, because they are extremely cute, but there is so much work and care and love that is involved. And obviously I don't know you. I don't know what you're capable of or not capable of when it comes to looking after animals, but they are a life form. They have little heartbeats and little brains. They are exactly like humans. If you just were to shrink humans down, we are all living organisms. We need love and care. So it's really important to educate yourselves. So I do want to touch on this if you do live in one of our states that you are allowed a sugar glider as a pet. First and foremost, sugar gliders are highly intelligent creatures. They may be small, but they are very smart. And there are research that has been done. You may want to research your own papers and find scientific or biology papers that prove that sugar gliders can become stressed. They can become depressed. So it's really important to know this, because the sugar glider can self-mutilate. And this is really disheartening, but they can inflict wounds on themselves if they are feeling stressed. This may be from not having a social companion. We know that sugar gliders are very social animals. They need another sugar glider. This is why they also live in clans in the wild. Of course, safety from predators, but also they need that social interaction every single day. Without this, they become sad, depressed, stressed. They can bite themselves, inflicting wounds. They may pull out their hair. And I think one of the most horrible is the male sugar gliders may mutilate their genitals, which is very upsetting. And it's definitely not something that you want happening. So you must know this if you are wanting a sugar glider as a pet. You must be doing all you can to take care of them. They need hydration. They can actually die of dehydration within 12 hours. And if you have other animals, if you perhaps live on a property, on acreage, on a farm, if you have rabbits or hamsters or guinea pigs, especially rabbits, our sugar gliders can be infected by rabbits with a bacterial infection, which can cause pussy wounds and death. They will also starve themselves if they are feeling stressed. This may be from a messy, noisy, dirty environment. This could be from not having that social interaction. Also small enclosures, and having a pet in general, from a cat, a dog, a bird to a sugar glider. It's not all fun and games. Again, they are living creatures. They have little heartbeats, little brains, and they really do need looking after. You need to ensure that they are getting the right nutrients and diet as well. They are known to suffer from calcium deficiencies. Without calcium, the bones become very brittle, you become very ill, and they can die as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can definitely see why people would want to have a sugar glider as a pet. They are extremely cute and small, but they are actually very noisy and messy and smelly. But please do your research, whether that's because you have a sugar glider or you want a sugar glider as a pet. Perhaps you just want to encounter one. Of course, you can travel to parts in Australia or New Guinea to see our sugar gliders. Make sure you are looking up, because they will be in our treetops. You could also visit your local wildlife sanctuary or zoo so you can see them in person and get a little feel of how cute and remarkable these creatures are. But please be respectful if you are encountering our sugar gliders or encountering any wildlife for that matter, and don't be touching or picking up. Please leave them alone. They will definitely be giving you a warning sign. We learned that with our blue-ringed octopus when they display those blue rings. Our sugar glider will be very noisy and be screaming at you to please leave them alone. So please always be respectful, but I trust you guys. So thank you for always being so kind, and thank you for always being so kind to me and supporting the podcast. Thank you if you've made it all the way to the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. But that is all for today. I truly hope you learned as much as you could about our sugar gliders. Thank you so much for your continuing support. I appreciate you, and I appreciate that so much, and all of the kind words. So I will be seeing you this time next week. Of course, I'm here every single Sunday for you guys. Thank you so much again. Bye for now.